We're back from the weekend as the Arizona Coyotes take a win over the Vegas Golden Knights. Also, a new coach is in Vancouver with a familiar face from Arizona. We're going to talk about that on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Let's go ahead and get things going. My name is Robyn Leonard. That's Carl Pavlock. Got a great episode for you guys going. I want to thank everyone for making the show your first listen every day. But it's a good week. It's a good day to come back from the weekend, Carl, because Arizona taking a 4-1 win over the Vegas Golden Knights. Something that I don't think we could have said any of us expected, because it's against Vegas. Vegas is a good team, and Arizona's not, especially after what we saw on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, both teams in the second game of a back-to-back. Vegas started their starter, Thompson, which is usually an indicator that they're taking things seriously. I'm not sure what happened, if they were just tired, if they, the rest of the team just underestimated the Coyotes, but Coyotes pulled out a nice win with Clayton Keller getting a hat trick. I believe his second hat trick of the season.
That's the big thing to talk about. Clayton Keller getting a hat trick. And it's always it's always nice to say that you want, because I think Keller's pretty quiet the last couple games.
Yeah.
Just so to see him kind of like, oh, okay, he's bouncing back a little bit. This is the Keller we're used to.
Yeah, Keller has been quiet for a while. He has, I think, had one goal in his previous 7 or 8 games. And Schmaltz has also been quiet, so he's not getting a lot of assists. But Keller's a good player. He's still having one of his best seasons, so you can expect a little bit of up and down. And I don't know if we're going to see another hat trick from him this season, but I'm sure that he's going to go through a period where his offensive production picks up.
Oh, absolutely. But it's nice to see it happen, against a against a team like Vegas, on that back-to-back at home, in all that aspect. I think a lot of people really want, it's, here in Arizona, a lot of people enjoy beating the other desert team. It's just like, just that little bit of extra bit, especially knowing what the two teams are.
Yeah. And let's be real. I don't think that geographic rivalries really count for much in the NHL, even though they try and force it on us. But I do think that there is something with Arizona and Vegas. I think the fact that Vegas had success right off the bat has pissed off a lot of Coyotes fans who are a long-suffering franchise. I think the fact that they were former Pacific Division teams is definitely something, and maybe even a little bit some of the former players like Phil Kessel being on the Golden Knights. Definitely, you can have a little bit of animosity towards that. Not too much. I don't know anyone who really wishes Phil ill will or anything, but there's definitely something for seeing a player leave your franchise to go to another that you have history with. That is kind of the thing that can build a rivalry.
Isn't Adin Hill their backup?
Yes, Adin Hill is their backup.
I lose track of some things of that sometimes.
Yeah.
The Adin Hill era. That was something else too. Even though it was like he was a third string here, but I mean,
He's doing pretty good. I was honestly curious why they didn't start him against the Coyotes, but Vegas went with their choice, and I'm not going to question it too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to see anything else. Anything else that from this game that stuck out to you that you know?
Well, the Dylan Gunther goal was also really pretty.
Mhm.
Definitely a highlight. And uh, it's gonna feed into our later topic of conversation because everyone was kind of pointing out, like, hey, that Dylan Gunther pick from the Vancouver Canucks, and he is already in the NHL performing. He has looked so much better since the World Juniors. So definitely want to show him some love, and also just it was their jersey night. It was the introduction of the third jersey, so
Yeah,
we
that's
finally
what I
got
was
a chance to
thinking.
see what it looked like on ice.
Now here's that question: How do you think they look on the ice?
They are very red. It is nice for the Coyotes to have like a red jersey again. I like the color red. I like purple. I like the orange a little bit less, but I think it's good. But I like the all red look. The cacti on the pants, I didn't realize it was just on one side, so that was weird. But I think the people who really pulled it out were Vamelka and Ingram, who have just phenomenal goalie pads. Vamelka started, he has like cactus on each half of his pads, half cacti. And then Ingram has the nice little lizard design on his pads. So great incorporation. I think it all comes together well. I wish the main logo was a little bit different and not just text, but otherwise, I'm upping my rating for like a B. It's a
Yeah,
B jersey.
that seems to be the biggest uh, critique of the third jerseys is this script text. There's a lot of people that just aren't a fan of it. They think it's just bland, just meh. Just like, eh. But it's overall like it looks good on the ice. Otherwise, like the
Yeah.
color kind of looks nice.
Uh, I mean, I think you would be like hard pressed to find like, especially in hockey, a lot of fans of like the script jersey. Like the Rangers have it, and they have like a pretty established look from that. And no one's going to come after them for it. Team USA is the only other team that I think pulls it off especially well. But
Remember when Vegas made their third jersey, or their I think was it their outdoor game jersey that just said Jersey on it, and everyone started making jokes about it. It's like, what's next? Pants that just say pants, helmet that says helmet, hat.
yeah, I mean, the New Jersey Devils have their jersey. That is not fun, but yeah, it is definitely it is a look that is not done in hockey much, and I think it's a for good reason. I don't think it necessarily works for most teams, and the teams that do work for they have history around that. Like neither one of us are going to tell the New York Rangers not to do their text jersey because they'll be like, we don't care what you think. We've been doing it for 100 years or however long they had that. Anytime
Right.
they try and come up with a logo, they get like the Statue of Liberty head, and it doesn't look good. But the Coyotes, they could have done something. And, it doesn't need to be the Kachina, doesn't need to be the Kachina head, doesn't need to be the Howling Coyote, doesn't need to be the Running Coyote. Could have been something completely new. It just didn't happen. And yeah, I am, less concerned about that now that I've seen the full thing, but it is, I think, the biggest critique that people are having.
Absolutely. Well, we got more to talk to on this episode of Lawn Coyotes. There has been a coaching change in NHL with a familiar face from Arizona. We're going to talk about that in just a moment and also a look ahead and other Coyotes news to catch up on in just a little bit. But first, a quick word from our sponsors on the show today.
Today's episode brought to you by AG1. Our next partner has a product that I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted some more energy. I am constantly trying to cut back on my caffeine usage, and AG1 just seemed like a really good way to still get that energy while cutting out the caffeine, cutting out the sugar, because it is definitely a great thing. It is lifestyle friendly, whether you're eating keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. And it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, or artificial anything. I also want to say that it costs you less than $3 a day. So you're investing in your health, but you're doing it in a fiscally responsible way. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. What I want you to do is check it out. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of their immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you need to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership of your over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
So back here on Locked On Coyotes, once again, I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. Free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. Let's talk about some league wide news in terms of coaching change, because Sunday, Carl, I mean, the news that everyone knew was going to happen because it was just kind of like the worst kept secret in Vancouver, that they were going to fire their head coach and
Yeah.
then hire a new one, the new one, former Coyotes head coach Rick Tocchet.
Yeah. Which was also not really a surprise. I think we all knew that it was going to be Tocchet. And a lot of people, especially people who were familiar with the Coyotes, were asking themselves why. And then we saw Vancouver do some of the, I think, worst things we have ever seen an organization do to a head coach. Like just completely like leave him out to dry in a situation where like everyone kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. And
Right.
you're just having a guy like twisting in the wind like that. It was I am glad that, plenty of sports people called out like the fact that like, hey, this is not cool. Like what was done, what is happening before our eyes is not a great thing for an organization to be doing.
Yeah,
But
it was really, really, really weird. But I think it really does question me though of the decision to hire Tocchet. And I think, yeah, I mean he has coaching experience. Of course, he coached the Coyotes for a good number of years. But I mean, let's be real, Carl. He wasn't a great coach with the Coyotes. A lot of things that made Coyotes fans scratch their heads, hockey fans scratch their heads. They're like, what in the world is he doing?
yeah. And there was always a question during Tockett's tenure: is he not doing good, or is the roster not constructed properly? And unfortunately, we never really got to answer that question. I was really hoping that like we would get to see like another coach come in and see what he can do with the roster as Jake constructed it, but we had a new GM at that point. Might as well just blow it all up. So we never really got a definitive answer. I think I read in the Athletic article where it's just like, hey, here are the young players that Tocchet was given. Players like Dvorak, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Dylan Strome, Jacob Chikrin, Connor Garland to a lesser extent. Chikrin and Garland were the only two who you could say had any real success under Tocchet. Everyone else has had success since Tockett's gone. Lawson Krause being a massive example.
100%. Yeah. Kraus, like I said, we talked about that last season where he was completely snake bitten. He just kind of didn't, have any vibe. And the moment, he leaves in and he comes in, he's having career seasons. So and then that goes to city of other players like Clayton Keller has been looking phenomenal. And it does say something about that when it changes from that coaching. You're just like, okay, I see it now.
Like, I just go back to the fact that Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz were the short leash line because it was such like a short leash, and if they did anything wrong, they were gonna get pulled. And granted, both have matured as players in a couple of years. Clayton Keller did a lot of work in the offseason, like he arrived stronger. A lot happened, but it just seems like that is such a low opinion of your players and like a startling lack of trust that you're just like, yeah, no, they're on a short leash. I know that they can make themselves better. Like freaking Nick Schmaltz was acquired to play with Clayton Keller. But I don't want them to think that they have too much room. I want them to stay, stay in their lane, stay in the system. Don't deviate too much. Don't make mistakes. And I do think that that has like an impact on a player. Like a lot of players seem to respond better if you trust them. Some want
Was
that
Carly
structure.
the third player on that short leash line?
Yeah, which I don't know why it was so like weird that it's like, yeah, we're gonna put our three best players together and see what happens. You're like, yeah,
Because
most teams do that.
The team then, like, obviously the team now doesn't have a lot of talent, but then there was zero depth even then, and you put your three best players in one line. Like, okay, what about the other three lines? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. But I mean, there are teams that have like a strong top, and they were. It could have been something. Like I just go back to the fact that Clayton Keller, Lawson Krause, and everyone just immediately took steps forward.
Right.
Except for like Jacob Chikrin was the only player who stuck around who had like a little bit of a regression. He was dealing with injuries though, and just a bunch of off ice stuff. Like,
And he had just started, and he just stepped into the number one D-man position.
yeah. Also, I do just want to say I feel really bad for OEL. Like, dude cannot just catch a break.
Yeah.
I don't know if the stories that he had a bad relationship with Tocchet were true. Because that's the type of thing that's going to stay between the two of them. But obviously, OEL did not play well under Tocchet, and now it's back, and I can just imagine how painful that is for him. Not only is he like an albatross contract, but he's got his coach who didn't even want to name him captain when he first showed up. That was like the first thing that Tocchet did. It's like, we're not going to have a captain. It's like, what? Why?
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. And honestly, I totally almost didn't even think about that until you just brought it up. Like, my brain just did not go there. I was just thinking, it's like, oh yeah, Tocchett's going to Vancouver. It's like, oh, that's right. There are two former Coyotes in Vancouver, OEL being one of them, and Garland being the other. But yeah, holy crap, that makes a difference too. Like, that's going to be something to pay attention to.
Yeah. And I do think the facade of Tocchet being a player's coach is kind of like lost a bit of its sheen. Like, he still gets mentioned with Phil Kessel and their relationship, but
Right.
like most of the articles I saw discussing it were like, yeah, he reportedly did not have a great relationship with his team's best defenseman. Like, he didn't have a good relationship with OEL. I don't necessarily think Phil Kessel did exceptionally well under Tocchet's time with the Coyotes, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird call for a weird coach. Like, I don't know why the Vancouver Canucks did things the way they did to get Tocchet as a coach midway through the season. I just don't.
Yeah. Another thing too is the fact that because of all the stuff with Tocchet lately, he had to delete his Twitter account because people were lurking in his activities, see what he's been liking, and it's like, all right, dude. And I think he got asked about it in a press conference, and almost immediately after, he deleted his Twitter account.
Yeah, he did. He said that he had it for when he was on the other side, being a media person, which AZ Sports Guy was the first to point out. Nope, you had it when you were a coach in Arizona, and that is definitely something that's true. So, you know, let's be real. Leaving Twitter, honestly, it's the dream. I respect the hell out of Tocchet for just deleting the Bird app. I wish I could do the same.
Yeah, but when we work that's not really much of a choice.
Yeah.
But on that note, we'll move on from that as we go, get other close things off some other news. Take a look ahead on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. But first, we're going to take a quick word from our sponsors. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers can join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads and player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance to win a bigger payout with a same game parlay. There's a lot of things we can go. You can bet on a lot of Arizona Coyotes games. I'm going to take a look at some of the Lions upcoming this week, games that they have coming up. And all that is on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy. So football fans and of course hockey, because you're listening to a hockey podcast, don't miss out. Place your $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and Locked On Podcast Network. So let's go ahead and close things off, Carl. Just kind of like taking a look ahead on the Coyotes, seeing what they have coming up, trying to bring up their schedule. They got the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow. Let's see. So this week they got the Ducks, the Blues, and the Ducks again. They get the Ducks twice this week.
Yep, they're playing the Ducks at home on Tuesday. Ducks and Honda Center on Saturday.
Yeah, those are one of the teams. I think the Ducks is one of the teams that I think you can feel the rivalry brew a lot more around. Around.
I mean,
not LA, not quite LA, where you can feel it.
They're competing very heavily in the tank battle, so it's kind of like the playoffs, except for tanking.
Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli.
Yeah. And I mean, the Ducks are one of those teams where you're just like, you have so many highly skilled players. What is going on? Why are you this bad? I get being bad, but this bad. It is kind of phenomenal. And I'm curious to see what the Coyotes can do. We talk a lot about the Coyotes as a team that will play up to their competition or play down to it. This is one of the few occasions I can say that the Coyotes could potentially play down to another team.
Yeah, I mean, look how they played against Chicago.
Yeah,
that's an example right there.
Yeah, that was, not not ideal. Although, if you're one of the people watching the tank battle, I'm sure you'd be happy if the Ducks got 2 wins.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of tanking, right?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to lose against some of the bad teams too. Like you can't just lose to the Dallas Stars. But I mean, it is definitely. I don't know. It'll be curious to watch because the Coyotes went through a period where they played some of the top teams in the freaking league, and now they're going to be playing one of the worst for two games in 1 week.
Yeah, if not the worst, because I think Anaheim might have the worst record right now.
If not, definitely up there.
They have 31 points for no, the Blue Jackets are the worst.
The Blue Jackets are the worst. Ow, wow.
Well, they're kind of like close to being the worst. It's 46 games played and 30 points. And the Anaheim Ducks are 47 games played and 31 points.
Which, I mean, 4 points back of the Coyotes. I remember someone said that, like, oh, the Chicago Blackhawks could never overtake the Coyotes. I'm like, there's still half a season left, man. Like, anything could happen. Like a team could go on a win streak in the latter half. One team goes on a losing streak, like the Coyotes did. They had a 10-game losing streak.
Right.
And, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they're going to have another 10-game losing streak. Let's be real.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, there's going to be some tough stretches of games. So we prepared for it. Because, again, remember what this team is.
What about the St. Louis game? What do you think about that one?
Another one because, like, the St. Louis is also not a good team. I mean, there's a big gap in the points between St. Louis and Arizona, which St. Louis is in Central with 49 points. Arizona is 7th with 35. That is a big gap. I think
and the Minnesota Wild are 3rd with 54. So the standings are really weird for the division. Sorry to cut you off, though.
No, good. But, so the Blues are not a good team. And I think will be interesting is because we know that Clayton Keller likes to run circles around St. Town.
Yeah, that is, I love the fact that the Coyotes get to play the Blues so much because Clayton Keller plays so well against them. It'll be interesting to see if he can do that again on Thursday.
That will be interesting indeed. But those are 3 games coming up this week, which I think should be pretty fun ones to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely.
One last thing, Carl, that I do want to want to talk about because it is Coyotes related, and because it's the two of us here. Let's talk about what happened. What happened at the end of last week because
You're bringing this up now at the very end of the episode? Yeah, sure.
I mean, I felt like I had to. I was thinking about it. I was debating, and I was like, all right, I think it's important. We didn't have an episode over the weekend. So,
true.
And it kind of happened all so suddenly. And those who probably don't know, I'm pretty sure you should by now. But we got word that Vox Media is pulling the plug on a lot of SB Nation sites, most of them being NHL sites. 5 for Howling, where Carl is the manager of, and I have written for so many years, is one of those sites. And so it's a sad day because how long has been going on for? It's been a long time, right?
I have personally been writing on 5 for Howling for 11 years. And I believe it started a couple years before I did. So maybe 15 total, which is just a very long time. And I never realized until this happened how big it is in a lot of people's lives, especially in my tenure. Like the popularity had started to diminish a little bit, but the massive amount of support that I've been receiving, the people who have said like, "Hey, this is really good." PHNX pulling the list of every single person who ever wrote on Five for Howling was very touching, because I feel like not enough people got credit, and certainly not enough people got compensation.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be 6 SB Nation sites that will be supported by Vox Media still moving forward. And I'm going to be honest, I do not know what is going to be happening. I received an email soon after it was announced that Stephanie Driver had been laid off, saying that, hey, starting at the end, or your contract goes until February 28th. Beyond that, we will be in touch. And it does seem like, hey, maybe they'll keep it open and just kind of run the sites regionally, and you could go and see I don't even know which teams are going to be covering it, but see a team, like one of their people, do like an occasional Coyotes article if something big happens, or it could just be nothing. They could just nuke it all. We honestly don't know at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the demand's held. We know exactly what's going to happen afterwards, but um, it was the community has been strong from Five for Hung, and as someone who wrote there for 6 years covering the Roadrunners, I know the people who always appreciated the work that we've done
Yeah.
over there. And I'm glad the people who have followed us to the podcast here on Locked On, you guys are all fantastic, and hoping to do more, and hoping to keep the community strong, despite the fact that one aspect is got a very questionable future.
Yeah. I will say this. Five for Howling was not nearly the strongest of the SB Nation websites. And that was mostly due to budgeting.
Hmm.
We tried to start, we did have a podcast on the SB Nation website.
We did.
You had two.
We did,
And
yeah.
you can definitely support the fact that the financial incentive to do that did not exist, or was not as good as it could have been. If they had actually wanted to make these sites truly good, it would have required more money that just didn't exist. And some of the sites that are going are some of the more popular ones. I do not understand why Vox is doing what they did. And I also just want to say, it sucks to lose Five for Howling. It has been a very big part of my life for many years. It's where I've met a lot of people, but it sucks to lose the other SB Nation sites too. Like Five for
Hmm.
Howling was not my favorite SB Nation site. There were amazing SB Nation sites that have changed how we have thought about hockey in very real ways. Like the people who have come from them, the analytics that have come from them, like just a lot of great sites to visit. And you know that is potentially going to be gone. I know that there are conversations happening with a lot of the former contributors, and like, hey, here's kind of what we need to do. But I think there's definitely going to be something that's going to be lost, and it's real unfortunate. This was also not something that surprised me. We were almost shut down before the season even started,
Right.
which is something that we talked about off mic. Ended up getting a sponsor that kind of like saved it for half a season, but like the end seemed like it was approaching.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate, but and especially through all those years, and like I said, a bunch of other the SB Nation sites that are impacted by all this. But I would like, and like you said, though, it was nice to see the people impact that all these SB Nation sites have left. The support everyone's been getting, even like you said, the support that Five for Howling getting, right? I watched that PHNX episode when they had that bit talking about Five for Howling, and you saw some of the comments down below. Everyone is just like giving the support even in the comments.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it in a way. It is a bit like the Boudreaux thing, where like it just happened in such a bad way that even if you're not like an active reader of Five for Howling, which you probably aren't, you may go on there every once in a while when something breaks. That's fine. That's what news sites are for. But like you're just like, man, it was done so dirty. Like it was layoffs on a Friday, mass layoffs where just the entire thing seems like it's going to be nuked, and like that's just gonna piss people off. Like the most ridiculous comment I saw was someone saying like, "Hey, this is the right way to do layoffs. What Vox is doing with SB Nation is the right way to do it. People are being informed ahead of time and blah blah blah." And it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, because people were
100%.
commenting before the replies were closed that there are still people who are figuring out if they're being laid off. Like it was happening all day. I still don't have any information about what's going to happen. So people have occasionally reached out and been like, "Hey, what's the deal with this?" And it's like, I don't know. They're going to tell me. They're going to tell me what Five for Howling is going to become. They're going to tell me what is going to happen with it. All I know right now is I am under contract until the end of February, at which point March 1st, I'm no longer under contract.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think like I've said, both of us are going to do our best to keep the community strong here through the Locked On podcast. I'm going to try to keep the community strong by finding other outlets to write for. I know there are prospects in place for myself, Carl, that I'm going to be figuring out the future for myself after whatever happens to Five for Howling.
Yeah. And I honestly do not know what I am going to be doing. As I said, I am still under contract until the end of the month. As I said, I've been writing on Five for Howling for 11 years. I started end of 2011. It has been a significant portion of my life. And yeah, it is going to take me some time to figure out what my next step is. Which if you are out there, if you want to support us, that is phenomenal. I have seen a lot of people ask like, "Hey, tell us where you're going to be," and we will do that to the extent that we can. I don't know. I need some time. It has been a very long time. And then I just got laid off in an email. It's not ideal. But yeah, I do hope that, for listeners out there, I hope one of the things that you picked up on, not just in what we talked about, because this wasn't a major issue as much, but like the lack of money in compensation that this platform was built off of, it is something that I am not sad to see go. Uh, the people of SB Nation got money by having very passionate fans not get paid, and that absolutely should not be the case. Running a site is not necessarily a full-time job, but at times it feels like it. Like, especially if you get like a breaking story, you are kind of expected to be on top of that. And if you are working another job, that is not necessarily something that is very easy to do. Every single SB Nation site you went to should have been making, like, the people behind it should have been making more money. Like, and that's true for the fact that Five for Howling had no other paid contributors than me. and you briefly when we did the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We got paid for that. We did not get paid enough for
Yeah.
the work that was done. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Like a lot of people are losing a small amount of income, and they should have been making more. And yeah, support everyone as much as you can. If you enjoy content on the internet, like just know that the person who is making that is not getting enough compensation, likely, and they should be doing more. And if you could help them out in any way, absolutely, please do.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and close things off. If you liked this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast, don't forget to leave us a like, a comment, subscribe if you yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasting on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/lockedoncoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. Carl Pavlak is at Carl Pavlak FFH. Interact with us, ask a question you might have, we might answer right back, or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys see to howl on.